Okay, so for our next lesson, so yesterday we talked about measures of central tendency. So measures of central tendency, we are trying to look for values that can describe the whole set of values. So the value which tends to be the center of all the set of all given values. Like for example, the mean or arithmetic mean, which can also be called as your average or simply the mean. Another example is the mode and the median. Now, the measures of variability gives us an idea of on how dispersed a set of values are, kung gaano sila kahiwa-hiwalay. Now, I'll give you an example why this is relevant, kung bakit sa tingin natin ay magagamit natin to compare the performance of a certain set of data or values. Now again, what is the measure of variability or dispersion? It is gives us an idea on helps us determine how spread out your set of data are. So there are three measures that we will be discussing this afternoon: the range, the variance, and standard deviation. Don't worry, this is mabilis lang to. Okay. So let me give you a scenario kung paano natin magagamit kagad itong variation. So you are the owner of two shops. So you want to compare the performance of two shops of your frozen chicken store. So para ma-check mo yung performance nila, syempre, ang kinuha mo ay yung total sales in 5 days. Okay? So there are two shops, the Imus and the Bacoor shop. Doon sa Imus shop, ito yung mga sales nila in 5 days. So may 72, 73, 76, 76, and 78. On the other hand, si Bacoor naman ay 67, 72, 76, 76, and 84. Now, if we use the first measure of central tendency, i-compare natin kung possible ba na pwede natin i-compare sila using the measure of central tendency. So that is the first calculation that we will be using. And solving for the mean, median, and mode sa Imus, okay, so solving for the mean, tingnan natin. Okay. So solving for the mean, para mapabilis, if we use the arithmetic mean, magiging 72, 73, 72 plus 73 plus 76 plus 76 plus 78 divided by 5. Lalabas na parehas sila na ang mean nila ay 75. At ang median nila ay 76 and ang mode nila ay 76. So, if you try to compare the two, walang pagkakaiba. Although, kung mapapansin ninyo, iba-iba yung values. If you use measure of central tendency, ang magiging conclusion mo, there is no apparent difference between the two. Parang walang pagkakaiba. Diyan natin pwedeng gamitin si measure of variation or measures of variability. So, we can, using the measures of variability, makikita natin kung sino yung mas consistent. Okay, mas consistent. Kasi the more kapag mas less yung spread ng data, that means mas consistent ang performance. Mas maganda ang performance. So, let's try to use the different measures of variability. Range. When we say range, para makuha natin yung range, kukunin natin yung pinakamataas at saka pinakamababang values. Okay? So, ganun lang kadali yung range. So, in the IMO shop, ang pinakamataas na value ay 78. Ang pinakamababang value ay 72, which is equal to 6. Sa Bacoor shop naman, ang pinakamataas na value ay 84. And the second, ang pinakamababa ay 67. So, mapapansin natin na ang titingnan natin dito kung sino yung mas mababang value. Kung sino yung mas mababang value. And we can see that IMUS has a lower value. That means kapag mas mababa ang value ng measures of variability, mas consistent yung performance. Okay? So, itong range, it's easier to compute. Mas madali. Kaso, only two values are considered. Ibig sabihin yung high and low lang. Now, kaya hindi karaniwang ginagamit tong range. Usually, it's one way to quickly. Mas mabilis kasi siyang i-compute para magkaroon ka lang ng idea. But if you really want to have an in-depth answer to measure of variability, gagamit tayo nitong dalawa. So, it contains a formula. Itong dalawa, variance and standard deviation. The difference between the two, ito yung formula ng variance. Kapag kinuha mo yung square root, nagiging standard deviation siya. Again, kapag ganito lang yung formula, that is variance. But pag kinuha mo na yung square root niyan, then that must be, that becomes standard deviation. Okay. So how do we get the variance? Unang-una, we have to solve for the mean. Kukunin natin yung average. So ito yung, it's important that you understand what mean is kasi gagamitin pa rin natin siya sa measures of variability. So after getting the mean, this is actually the IMU shop. Kinuha natin yung mean ng IMU shop. Then afterwards, ito naman yung mean ng Bacoor shop, 75, parehas lang sila. The next phase is this. So alam natin, so sa Bacoor shop, kukunin natin yung isa-isa, then isusubtract natin siya doon sa mean. So alam natin na ang mean ay 75, so 67 minus 75, negative 8. 72 minus 75, negative 3. 76 minus 75, 1. 76 minus 75, 1. 84 minus 75, 9. Okay. Para magising tayo, can you please add this? Negative 8 minus 3 plus 1 plus 1 plus 9. Recitation. Paunahan na lang sa chat box ang sagot. Okay, si De Ocampo na una. So the correct answer is 0. So if you add this one, the summation, or if you add negative 8 minus 3 plus 1 plus 1 plus 9, you will get 0. So one way to double check na tama ang ginagawa mo, dapat maging 0 ang sum nitong x minus the mean. Okay? Let me write that down para may makita kayong let me just connect my tablet, drawing tablet. So if you, so if you get the summation of this, summation of x minus this one, this should be equal to 0. So that is one way for you to check na you are on the right process. Now finally, ang gagawin nyo is to multiply this one or raise this to the power of 2. Raise this to the power of 2. At ito yung magiging sagot. Okay? So raise this to the power of 2, positive 9. So mapapansin nyo yung negative magiging positive, right? 1 raised to 2 is 1 pa rin. 1 raised to 2 is 1 pa rin. 9 raised to 2, it becomes 81. And if you get the summation of this, that will be equal to 156. So this is the Bacoor shop. Let's take note. Let's take note that this is the Bacoor shop. Okay, moving on. So alalahanin natin ha. So this is your variance for Bacoor. Let's call this your variance for Bacoor. Now, mali pala. The final answer that is just a summation. To get the variance, you have to divide the number of value minus 1 to 156. So since 6 yan, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 pala, minus 1. So that would be 156 divided by 4. And this will be your sample variance. So this is the symbol for sample variance. So 39. Again, let me remind you that this is for the Bacoor shop. Bacoor. Bacoor. Okay. Okay, so Bacoor yan. Now, moving to the Emu shop. So this is your Emu shop. So again, we've already solved earlier that the mean of this is 75. So the first part is x minus the mean. So 72 minus 75 is negative 3. 73 minus 75 is negative 2. 76 minus 75 is 1. 76 minus 75 is 1. 78 minus 75 is equal to 3. Again, paunahan. If you solve for the summation of this one, what would be the result? Subito, tauna. Galing ni Subito. So let me just update De Ocampo and Subito. Okay, so the correct answer is 0. So if you, kapag 0 ang nakuha mong sagot, then that means you are on the correct process. So tama yung ginagawa mo. The next thing to do is to square each value and get the sum. So ayan. So you square each value and get the sum. So the answer is 24. And finally, to solve for the sample variance, so 24 divided by 4, and the result is 6. So if we compare the two, now, okay, wag muna natin i-compare. Let's solve for the standard deviation or simply S. You just get the square root of that. So square root of 6 is 2.45. So this is just the summary of how to solve for the standard deviation. Hanapin mo muna yung sample variance. Pag na-solve mo na yung sample variance, then square root. You have to get the square root of the result. So let us look at the standard deviation of each. So again, mapapansin natin na mas mababa ang value ni Imus kaysa kay Bacoor. So how do we interpret this? Kahit parehas sila ng central tendency, iba ang value ng kanilang standard deviation. So the interpretation, kapag ang standard deviation ay less, again, kapag ang standard deviation ay less, that means mas consistent ang performance ng shop na yon. And kapag consistent yung performance, that means better performing yung shop na yon. So between the two shop, Imus shop is better performing. Understood? Ganun lang kadali. Okay. So for our recitation, let's have a sample that you can work on. So paunahan, para pag nakasagot na kayo, let's give chance to others. So unang-una nating hahanapin is mean. What is the mean of 5, 8, 9, 7, and 6? So what is the mean of 5, 8, 9, 7, and 6? So Regumba, tingnan nga natin. Nasagot ko na ba to? Check ko muna kung may sagot na ako meron na. Okay, so kapag nakuha nyo na, let me just Excel. So it's always best to use Excel for this. So 5, 8, 9, 7, 6. Hanapin natin daw yung kanilang 5, 8, 9, 7, 6. So getting the average of that, round off to the nearest whole number, and as you can see, the answer is 7. So tama si Mr. Sarigumba. Okay. So let me just add points to Mr. Sarigumba. Okay, next. The next thing to do is to subtract, let's call this X, and X minus X bar, or tawagin na lang natin X minus mean. So, ibig sabihin, isusubtract natin yung 5 minus the mean, 8 minus the mean, 9 minus the mean, 7 minus the mean, 6 minus the mean. So, can anyone help me find the summation of all the result, or ano yung mga values natin dito? Sige. Ano dapat yung values natin dito? X minus the mean. So what should be the values of X minus the mean? -2, si Robles. Tingnan nga natin. Okay, so equals 5 minus the mean. Okay, so tingnan natin. So -2, 1, 2, 0, 1. So ang tama si Robles. Tama si Robles. Okay. Pag nakasagot na kayo ngayong araw na to, wag na kayo sasagot, ha? Okay, next. Kukunin naman natin yung summation nito. If you add everything here, what should be the result? Okay. Nauna si Pope. Ang galing si Pope. So, Pope ay tama. Nakapunta si Pope, ha? So, it should be 0. Okay. Kapag tama yung inyong so, if we add everything here, auto sum. Yan. Yon. So, it should be 0. However, the next part is we have to square each result. So, that means ito, -2 squared. Then, I want you to get the summation para mabilis. Ano kaya, after nyo ma-square yung bawat isa, you add. So, what should be the result here? Again, so for example, ito si -2 squared. -2, i-square ko lang siya. Ayan. So magiging 4 siya. So if you do that as well with the others, at kapag pinag-add mo siya lahat, what should be the result? Yung result ang kailangan ko. Okay, lang. Tingnan natin. Daming sagot. So, tingnan natin si Santa Ana kung tama. Okay. And if we find the sum of that. Okay. So, tama si Santa Ana. Bumabawi siya dahil nakatulog siya kahapon. Okay. So, that would be 10. And finally, to solve for the sample variance, para ma-solve natin ang sample variance, ang gagawin lang natin ay so sample variance or siya yung S raised to 2. So ang sample variance, para makuha natin siya, capital, o yan. So small lang dapat. Okay. Okay. So ito ay i-divide lang natin sa number of values minus 1. So in this case, 5 minus 10 divided by 5 minus 1. So what should be the result? 10 divided by 5 minus 1, or simply 4. Ano kaya ang result? May 3 new messages. 2. Sumagot ba si Octaviano ngayong araw na to? Okay, hindi pa. So Octaviano is correct. So it must be 2.5. Lastly, to solve for the standard deviation, you get the square root of 2.5. What is the square root of 2.5? What is the square root of 2.5? So si De Castro ay tama. So the correct answer is, so let me use Excel, square root of this one, and I should be getting 1.58 round off to 2 decimal places, and that must be the answer, 1.58. So let me just update that. Si Miss De Castro. Okay. Okay, so that's it. That's all for our discussion this afternoon. I'll be just posting this later. But for your mini task, let me remind you of your mini task dahil maraming wala ngayong araw na ito. I'll give you the chance to work with your team or group members and mag-compare kayo ng mga business na ginawa ninyo or pinasa nyo nung first quarter. Tingnan nyo kung sino yung pinakamadali sa tingin nyo sa mga nagawa ng mga kagrupo nyo. Kung sa tingin nyo kung sino yung pinaka-profitable or pinakamagandang i-research and develop, yun yung piliin nyo para sa grupo ninyo. At saka, you provide a name for your company or business. So, yun lang. So, let me